This is video number 3 on how to measure model 1966. We're going to look at measuring the kitchen. So when we measure a house, what we're actually looking for are the exposed surfaces where we will experience heat loss and heat gain. We'll need to find the area of walls, the area of any windows, and possibly if there were any cold floors, you'd have to determine those areas. And on the second floor, we've got exposed ceiling, so you're going to have heat loss and heat gain through the ceiling. So we need to find all these different areas. Here on the ground floor, we've got the first room is the kitchen, and so we're going to determine the distance of exposed wall from this point all the way around to this point here. Now, just before we get started, you should keep in mind a couple of things. Always remember that heat loss starts from the inside surface of an exposed wall. So the heat loss would start here and travel through and outside. Heat loss would be here and travel through and outside. This wall is simply an interior partition separating the kitchen from the dining room. There is no heat loss through this wall because, of course, the kitchen and dining room are the same temperature. However, we do need to include the actual area that is occupied by any interior partition. And so we always have to make sure we include the area. So when you're measuring, if we're going to measure the distance of this wall, you need to start from the center of this interior partition and measure to the inside surface of this exposed wall. Conversely, if you start here, then you start on the inside surface and you measure to the center line. Either way, it doesn't matter, you're still finding the same distance. So let's put our scale here. You'll notice that I'm lining up the zero at pretty much the center of that particular partition, and I'm going to read across, and we can see that we've got 8.5 feet, and we're looking at about 8 feet 8 inches. And so because of that, we're going to round this up to 8.75 feet. So let's jot that down here on the drawing. Now let's measure the distance of this wall here. Now recognize that there's a small bump in the wall here. I'm just going to measure from one corner to the next. And from there we can see that we are measuring approximately 10 feet 2 inches. So we're going to make that 10.25 feet. Now we'll measure this diagonal distance, and we get 3.5 feet. We'll measure this wall here, and we get 5.75 feet. Let's measure this partition, this exposed wall here, and it looks like we're getting just under 3 feet, so we're going to call that 3.0 feet. And finally, we've got this wall to measure. Now you'll notice that we've got a little bit of interior partition here, and so this we don't want to include this area, so just draw a line through here, and that helps distinguish the actual corner where our inside surface meets. So we're going to measure from this corner, and looks like we get exactly 7.5 feet. So I'm going to add those up. 8.75 plus 10.25 plus 3.5 plus 5.75 plus 3 plus 7.5, and we get a total of 38.75 feet.